This is your quiet room of peace. When you are inside your quiet room, you feel very relaxed. This is your private and personal space. Inside your quiet room, you feel safe and secure. This is the place where you can be yourself. Inside your quiet room, you are free from the pressures and the demands of the outside world. You can let go of your daily roles and responsibilities. Feel the peace and the wonderful silence of your quiet room. And just allow your mind to absorb this energy, this atmosphere of serenity, tranquility. And as you do so, the thoughts begin to slow down. The mind becomes quiet, calm, relaxed, peaceful, and free. Just be with this feeling of peace in your mind for 1 minute. Okay, thank you. So I'm hoping you're feeling a little more relaxed, a little more calm. And that is the way to build our inner resilience. So I think we can finish there. That's the method. So of course, to do that is an important skill to learn for anyone in this day and age. But let's look a bit more closely at really understanding what we mean by resilience and why we need it, especially in this day. We know, of course, that we're passing through very challenging times. The first time in the history of the human race, everyone is experiencing this current situation, this pandemic, as it's being called. Of course, there have been challenging situations all over the world from time to time, but this time this is like a wave that spread across the world. And quite apart from the physical challenges of dealing with your physical health, keeping yourself safe, but an added challenge is also how to keep your mind steady, positive, peaceful, happy. And especially in some countries, I was reading some news, places where people have been in lockdown for weeks, even 2 months. And the plan is to keep them in lockdown further for several more weeks. There are many mental issues, how to continue to live in a confined place with people who maybe you like, maybe some you don't get along with, how to keep your mind occupied, how to keep yourself happy. So there are also issues connected to one's mental health. And so what we mean by resilience is really your ability to deal with and to bounce back from challenging situations. And just as doctors and scientists have worked out how to increase your physical resilience, the resilience of your body, by understanding how the metabolism works, how the body works. In the same way, it's also important to understand the mind and how the mind works in order to develop its resilience. Let's look at one or two little formulae which help us to understand why resilience is important. So I've written these little papers out. I'm hoping you can see. I think you can see that there. And this is a formula connected to stress. And so it's telling us here that stress is two things. It is the pressure that you experience in life divided by the resilience you also have. Now, usually when people have stress in their life, they say, I have too much pressure. And they list the pressure related events in their life. They may say, I have too much work to do, or there are people in my life who I don't get along with, or exam stress is there, or I live in a very noisy place, or there's economy related stress. Many, many factors are there. And usually what people do to reduce the stress in their lives is they simply try to reduce the pressure. They work on reducing the pressure. So they may say, I need to change my job, or I need to move to another city, or I need to, get some people out of my life, reducing the pressure. But yet, we can't all change the stress, the pressure related events in our lives. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Depends also on your responsibilities. But there is something all of us can do. That is, we can increase our resilience. And that's something which often we don't realize we have the opportunity to do. We can work on strengthening the resilience of our own minds. Now, it's quite striking, and I always used to think, since I was a kid, why people don't spend more time looking after their minds. I was born in Africa and I grew up in the UK. And I saw that most people's lives center around going to work, earning lots of money, having a good circle of friends, maybe going to the gym, going on holidays. And of course, we need that. That's all part of life. But also we need to spend time to take care of the inner self, the mind. And I believe due to this imbalance of not giving proper care or proper attention to the mind, We have a situation where there is so much stress in the world. People find it difficult to handle personalities that are opposite to theirs. And then, of course, people turn to pharmaceuticals to feel happy, to calm down, to go to sleep, and so on. And that's all due to this imbalance of so much focus upon the outside and no balance of focus or attention on the inside. So think of any machine that you buy, whether it's a car, a laptop, a fridge. Along with that machine, what do you also receive? You receive also a user manual. And that user manual tells you how to maintain that machine, how to look after it, but also how to use it correctly. So the question arises for us, where is the user manual for the mind? How are you supposed to use this thing called mind? What sort of thoughts are healthy in the morning? What kind of thoughts are better later on? How much thinking is enough about a particular situation? How should I feel about failure? How should I feel about rejection or loss? So there's a whole science of understanding how to use the mind correctly, what sort of attitudes are appropriate for which situation. But largely we grow up without this understanding, without this training. And so as we go through life, we develop certain bad habits of misuse of the mind. And due to repeating those habits, by the time we are adults, some of them have become fairly deep-rooted habits, which we then find difficult to change. Now, it takes training, it takes attention, it takes care in order to grow out of bad habits. But yet, all of us can do that and develop good habits. Regularity is necessary in order to build up a momentum. For example, think about planning to go to the gym. For the majority of people, when they feel they need more exercise or they're overweight or they're just feeling a little bit lazy, they say, I'm going to start going to the gym. And they do. Once, maybe twice. And then after a while, they may say, well, it's too much, or, I don't have time, or it's too tiring. It's easy to start something, but not so easy to keep going. Yet that is necessary if I want to achieve any kind of result. So whether it's going to the gym or learning a new language or a musical instrument or developing new culinary skills, regularity in practice is necessary until I learn the art. The same thing applies also to the mind. If I want to learn the greatest of all arts, and I call this as really the most necessary skill we need today, the art of thinking. Knowing how to appropriately use my thought energy in day-to-day life. Why that's important is because your thought energy is the basic currency of life. I would say your whole life is a reflection of how you are choosing to spend your thought energy, your thought power. And this is good news for us because it means if I pay attention to using my thought energy better in my daily life, the quality of my life will improve, which means my relationships will improve, my emotional stability will improve, my performance at work or in my studies will improve, and even the circumstances in my life will become more favorable to me. I'd like to share a very powerful sentence, which when I heard this, it was like a kind of like a slap in the face. And that sentence was that life is not, life is not happening to you. Life is responding to you. I'm going to repeat that. Life is not happening to you. Life is responding to you. Which means situations and circumstances don't just happen, but it is my thoughts, it's my attitudes which are going out into the world and are then coming back to me in the form of situations, circumstances. And so it means I am at the very center of my own life. I can improve things in my life, starting with my thoughts, with my attitude, my vision. For me, these two words encapsulate what spirituality in life means: an upgrade in my attitude and in my vision. Even though my circumstances may be the same as before, but if my attitude and vision improve, I will have a very different experience of those circumstances. This is where resilience develops. Just as for the body, if you begin to eat more healthy foods, if you have your vitamins, your proteins, your greens, etc., the body's immune system is boosted. It's the same also with the mind. If I choose to improve my thought quality, my willpower will increase, my self-confidence will increase, my ability to face difficulties will increase, my capacity to tolerate will increase, my courage will be emboldened, and my capacity to love will also increase. And love is a very compound word, which means acceptance, inspiration, forgiveness. Pretty much everything is contained within that word. So how to do it? Well, there are two main things which are important in developing our inner resilience. One of them is what I've kind of been mentioning already, learning to respect the inner self or the mind. And for that, here are a few simple suggestions. First thing is how to wake up in the morning. Now, in our 24-hour lifestyle today, and where everybody seems to have the toys of technology in their bedroom, usually what most people do when they wake up is they immediately, they go to their phone, which they may be using as an alarm clock, and they maybe, they check their messages, or they talk to someone, or they think about what they have to do during the day. But before we engage with life, before we engage with the world, before that, let me engage with my inner self. Let me visit the quiet room which is at the very center of my consciousness. Before you go out, first go in. Spend a few minutes experiencing and emerging that peace which is actually already within you. It's very important to start the day in the right way. Now, people say, do they not, that if somebody is having a bad day, she or he may say, I must have got out of the wrong side of the bed this morning. Have you heard that phrase before? It implies that because the day started off badly, it's having an impact on the rest of the day. But the opposite is also true. If I start the day off well, if I start the day by feeding the mind with a peace experience, the science says that the morning experience is going to affect the rest of my day. If you have that experience in the morning, It's going to make you emotionally more stable through the day when the challenges come. And it's in the day the challenges come. There may be some bad news, something may happen at work which you don't like, or a friend in some relationship you experience some turmoil. That's life, stuff happens. But if I've equipped myself with this inner power first thing in the day, it's going to help me to maintain my stability. Now, I call this as charging the battery of your mind first thing in the morning. Even before you come into conversation with someone, your family members, first come into conversation, self-conversation with your own mind. And I believe that in times past, people were more aware of this and paid more attention to it. And probably in the rural parts of the world, people still are more aware of this, the importance of this. But as I mentioned, 24-hour lifestyle, 24-hour lighting, 24-hour entertainment with TV and social media, it's like everything has become mixed up. But yet we have to understand there is a rhythm for the day. Just as your body has certain rhythms and times through the day, nature has certain rhythms and seasons. Even the birds go to sleep at some point. So to human beings, we have to understand there are rhythms for the mind. There is a time to think, there's a time to put the full stop and say, enough. If I'm practicing this, notice how your day is very different. Think of how you may construct a tall building. Before you go up, first you have to go down and fix firm foundations. And one has to spend quite some time in making those foundations firm. If the foundation is firm, then you can build a tall building, knowing if there is a storm or an earthquake, the building can remain upright. If the foundation is not firm, a little earthquake, the building comes crashing down. So it's worth starting the day in the right way with charging the inner battery. Second thing I would suggest is as we go through the day, practice something that we as meditators practice, and that's called traffic control for the mind. Now imagine the thoughts in your mind are like cars in the street. The question arises, how is the traffic up here? Is it flowing orderly? Is it organized? Is it coordinated? Or are my thoughts going in all different directions at the same time? We know that when one car is parked in the wrong place, it can block 100 other cars. How much time and energy is wasted due to that one car in the wrong place? The same way, one waste thought, one negative thought, one useless thought can block the flow of my creativity, my happiness, my positivity. So traffic control for the mind is a practice where you try to stop for 3 minutes or at least 2 minutes if you can, physically stop and just withdraw from doing and just go to the being. Withdraw from the world of action and just come into your inner world. And what this will do is it will break the mind's habit of speeding. When the mind is speeding, then we have lots of accidents where we waste our precious thought energy. Again, it's just like cars in the street. If the cars are going too fast, there's a chance you cannot turn, you cannot swerve when you need to, and there's a chance of having an accident. Therefore, you have these sleeping policemen in the road, these road humps. So traffic control is a practice where at least 2 or 3 times a day, you try and slow down, try and stop, and you say, okay, mind, just withdraw from action. Just go to the quiet place. Go to the quiet room inside. Just be there. Refresh, relax, rejuvenate, and then you come back out again into action or your meeting or your conversation. And if this is new for you, then I would suggest try to do it at least 2 or 3 times a day for 1 week and see how you feel at the end of that 1 week. And generally people say, I feel a lot more calm. I feel I have more energy. I feel I have willpower, whereas before I lacked it. I feel I can face a person who I've been avoiding for a long time. Why? Because I'm beginning to conserve my energy. Now, whilst we're on this point, let me show you another formula here. Yeah, can you see that? Now it tells us that the result of anything is equal to 2 things. It's equal to the effort that you put in, but divided by the waste that you are also producing. So simple mathematics. If I want to improve the result of anything, then what should I do? Well, 2 things. You can make more effort, but you can also reduce the waste. And mostly people pay attention only to the effort they make. Try to make more effort, they try to work harder in any field, in any context. And of course, that's good. But let me also check, how much waste am I producing? And in our subject here, with regard to resilience, waste is to do with your waste thoughts and waste words. Think about how many words you speak every day. How many are useful words? How many are necessary words? How many are meaningful words? And one practice to try and work on is to make the words and eventually the thoughts more essential. Try to be more precise. Let me try to know what I wish to say before I say it. In this way, we are again saving our brain energy, but also saving the energy of our thoughts. And so traffic control helps us to do that by just stopping, checking myself before you come back into action. Okay, and then the third thing is how to finish the day. And again, the mind has a mechanism by which it works. Just like your body has a mechanism, the body has certain rules and principles. And if you wish to maintain good health, you have to observe and respect the body's limits, the body's needs for exercise, sleep, and so on. How to go to sleep at night? Well, you may remember, or perhaps it still happens, when parents used to read a nice bedtime story to a child before the child goes to sleep. And there was some sense there, the sense that if the child has good thoughts, positive thoughts, happy thoughts, then the dreams will also be nice. You wouldn't read a horror story to a child, would you? The same way, the mind is also a child. It has to be taken care of well and put to sleep properly. How would you close your computer at the end of the day? Would you simply pull the plug. No, if you do that, then the next morning when you turn it on, the computer will tell you, you didn't close it down properly. Now we have to go through some checking. But there are steps. You have to sign out, you have to log off, you have to switch off, and so on. It's the same with the mind. And I'd like to share with you a little analogy that I was told once, again, when I was in my early teens growing up. And somebody said to me that this is how to sleep at night. And he said, consider the whole of the day to be a theater performance. In fact, the whole of life is a theater or a drama. And whatever happened today, maybe something good, something bad, something indifferent. Maybe I did something amazing, or I made some very silly mistake. Maybe I was praised, maybe I was criticized. Maybe I was a center of attention, or perhaps everybody ignored me or forgot about me. Whatever happened today, for today, the curtain is closed. Today's drama is over. Today's theater has finished. And just multiply the whole day by 0. Empty the mind of the thoughts of the day. Allow the mind to be light and free, and then go to sleep. And I found this was so useful to put the mind to sleep, such that the sleep becomes more deep and more restful. And if you have a deep and restful sleep, the next morning, a new day really does feel like a new day. When there are sleeping problems, and it's again quite a common thing today in big cities, it's because the mind is too active. The mind doesn't go to sleep because it hasn't been put to sleep properly. And so these simple practices help us to learn how to respect the mind, how to take better care of the mind. And so, waking up in the morning, through the day, and also in the evening, going to sleep. So these are some tips and ideas on taking better care of the mind to develop resilience. Now, I'm going to come to the other part now, the second part of resilience. Hoping the first part is clear to you. Second main thing is connected with your vision and attitude towards life. In other words, how you choose to see things. And in this regard, I think there are 3 main types of people. Now, when I first started working, my first job was in central London, near a place called Oxford Street. I'm sure you're familiar, you've heard of that. And I used to work in a big building. It was for a telecoms company. You know, a few hundred people working in the whole building. And what do you do when you go into work? The first thing you say to all your colleagues, "Hi, good morning, how are you?" And most people would say, "Well, I'm surviving." And it kind of became, like a cliche term, just to say I'm surviving. But I used to think in my mind, just to survive, is that really good enough? Just to survive and get through life. I mean, is that it? Is that good enough? To survive is what a plant may do, or what a tree may do. But we're human beings. We have consciousness, we have intellect, we have perspective, we have creativity. Surely we can upgrade our relationship with life if we choose to. So that's the first group, I would say, people who are just in surviving mode. Then the next level up is, I would say, people who exist. And to exist means you go through the rigmarole of day-to-day experiences. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes you are praised, sometimes you are criticized, sometimes opportunity comes to you, sometimes opportunity is pulled away from you. So all that happens. But in the existing mode, the way you feel inside is a result of what's happening on the outside. So if something good happens, you feel great, very high. Something bad happens, you crash, you feel low. If people behave as per your wish, then you're smiling. If people are not behaving as per your wish, then you get angry or irritated. So in the existing mode, it's like we are on an emotional roller coaster, up and down, up and down. There's no sense of control over my emotions. But then there's a third group, which is the highest group. And I would say that all of us are interested to be in that group. And that's really of those who choose to live. Now, what does it mean to live? To live means, yes, you go through the rigmarole of sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, success, failure, praise, criticism. All that happens. But the difference is you decide, you choose how you want to live, you want to feel. You have made almost like a pact with yourself. My peace of mind and my happiness is my personal property, period. You've realized whatever is happening in the outside world, I cannot control. What's happening on the inside world is absolutely in my control and is my choice and my responsibility. Indeed, people who are in living mode, they even use adversity or challenges to make themselves grow. Now, what's the difference between those who exist and those who live? The main difference is in the way of seeing, how the eye of my mind is choosing to see a situation. And that's reminding us of a very important principle, which is that today, you may not be able to choose what comes in front of you, but you can choose how you wish to see it. And I can't emphasize enough how important this principle is. What happens to most people when they don't like what comes in front of them? They get very involved with it. Why he said this? Why that situation happened? Why didn't the other take place? And their mind becomes consumed with what they don't like. Now, if your mind is consumed with what you don't like about life or about other people, or again about your own self, then the result is your mind experiences stress, negativity, your mind experiences some fear perhaps. But rather than that, what's important is to ask myself, how do I choose to see this? So somebody, I think, said the message, can you state the principle again? Well, the principle basically, the message here is that I cannot control today what life is bringing in front of me. But what's important is how I choose to see it. Let's maybe say a bit more about this principle. What you see will influence how you feel. How you feel will drive how you behave. How you behave will result in your life, your reality, your circumstances. Everything starts from what you choose to see in a situation. And when I say see, I mean the eye of your mind, your attitude, and your vision. Now, let's use the often quoted example of what you may give to a plant to make it grow. Think, for example, of a very fragrant flower. Think of a rose. In order to help the rose to grow, what may be given to the rose? Well, you may say water and air and sunlight and so on. But more than that, what is also given is fertilizer. And how does fertilizer smell? Not very good. And so, in the same way, sometimes when life throws fertilizer at you, ask the question, how can I grow through this? I'm hoping this will answer the questions which I'm seeing coming up. Here are the important questions, and these were very useful for me, especially in my late teens, early 20s. Any difficult situation, quickly ask relevant and powerful questions. How can I grow through this? What is there for me to learn here? How can I move forward? What is this situation asking me to develop within myself? And these kinds of questions, they take your mind into not just a positive mindset, but a mindset in which you are actually growing, evolving, and maturing. Perhaps what can help to clarify more is this other diagram I've got here. So hoping you can see that. This is one of the most poignant and profound ideas that I came across, and I love to share this with everyone. And it tells us that we are all surrounded with events. And events can be just the things happening in the news, the stuff you hear on the news. It could be things happening in your city. It could be the behavior of people in your house. Everything is just an event. And there's not so much you can do about the events in your life. But here is what we do. We give meaning. We give meaning to these events. So the event is the event, but with my mind, I am giving meaning to the event. So we walk through the streets, for example, and we give meaning to whatever we see around us. And therefore humans have been called as meaning-making machines. Now, why this is important is because the meaning that you give to the event is generating your emotions, your emotional state, the way that you feel about things. So that's the sequence. First, something happens. Then very, very quickly, your mind gives meaning to it. And just as quickly, the emotion is generated. That emotion may be fear, maybe panic, maybe joy. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Event, meaning, emotion. Event, meaning, emotion. But because the giving of meaning to the event is very fast, and because the generation of the emotion is also very fast, we don't realize that this is actually what's happening. And so the illusion that we live under is that the event is directly creating the emotion. This is the mistake we make. So we say things like, you know what? I am so angry. I am so angry because of what this person said to me today. Or we say, no, I am so upset because of such and such a situation. I am so worried because of X, Y, Z. We say that, so we believe there that my emotion is a direct result of the event. But this is, in fact, not true. It's not true. You're not angry because of what somebody says to you or how somebody speaks to you. You're angry because of the meaning your mind is giving to what he or she said. You're not worried because of something which happened or may happen. You're worried because of the meaning your mind is giving to the situation. In other words, the event is not the creator of your emotion. The meaning you're giving to it is the creator. And this is good news for us because it tells us that let's take better care of the meaning that we're producing. Let me work on upgrading the meaning that I'm giving to life and to situations. And this, of course, raises another question. What is behind meaning? Where does meaning come from? What are the constituents of meaning? What is the meaning of meaning? So just in brief, I'd just like to share one of the main components of meaning, and that is your perspective of things. Your perspective, literally the position from which you choose to see things, is going to affect how you feel about them. And how do you raise your perspective? Well, let's take a simple idea and let's say there are 5 different stages or 5 different points of view you may have to any situation. So let's say there is some situation in your life which you're finding challenging, you're finding difficult, or you're finding it's giving you some anxiety, some fear, some tension. Now, when your perspective is low, you may see that situation and think, this is a problem. I have a problem. And if you see something as a problem and you live with that problem in your mind, then you're going to generate heavy emotions. You may have worry, you may have some stress, yeah? You may have anxiety, tension, and so on. But if you raise your perspective, you say, okay, here is a situation, but I choose not to see it as a problem. Let me instead see it as an obstacle. And what's the difference between a problem and an obstacle? A problem is I focus on the thing or the person in my way, and I'm consumed by that. When I see the same thing or person as an obstacle, I focus on myself. I ask myself, how can I overcome this? How can I deal with this situation? How can I handle the person? What do I need to develop in myself to overcome this? And usually, in my experience, the things we need to work on or develop within ourselves are all connected with virtue. Somewhere you need courage. In another situation, you need patience. With another person, you need to forgive. Another situation, you need confidence in yourself. Somewhere else, you need to let go. All of these virtues and many more, this is the thing we actually need to focus on and work upon. The more virtue you absorb in your character, the more powerful you become spiritually and emotionally. And what you find is next time you're faced with a challenge, if you're already equipped with virtue, you can deal with it very easily. Just like physically, if somebody's body is weak, it's a challenge to run, to jump, to walk, to carry heavy things. But if a person is in the habit of working out, keeping fit, then you're already in a state of readiness to deal with whatever physical challenges come. It's the same spiritually. If I'm working on virtues in my life, I'm equipped, I'm ready to handle difficult situations, difficult people. Okay, next step up, we had a problem, obstacle. Now the same thing or same person I see as opportunity. I say, okay, here is a situation. It's an opportunity for me to apply my learning, an opportunity to apply virtue in my life. So you won't be afraid of the situation. You won't generate a whole forest of waste thoughts. Okay, let me apply some patience here. Let me apply faith in myself. Let me apply tolerance, a chance to apply. Then, fourth stage up, now the same thing you are seeing as a test. Now, do you like tests? Usually when we're at school, we don't like tests. But tests are useful for us to ascertain what I know and what I need to work on or pay attention to. You take your body for a test, which is called a health checkup. And they see what's working, what's not working, what needs attention. You take your car or your motorcycle for a test. They check the brakes, the lights, and so on. So too, for a person who is self-aware or spiritually aware, you realize that sometimes life brings tests in front of you to see how much virtue you actually have. I may think, for example, I have a lot of confidence, or I am very humble, or I have a lot of patience, or I'm very honest. But how to know until I'm in a certain situation which tests me? So in that test, I can look in the mirror, I can understand myself better. And so it's positive, it's useful to have tests for the purpose of self-awareness, self-assessment. Then there is the final stage. Now, what do you think the final stage is? We started with a problem, became an obstacle, became an opportunity, became a test. Final stage is now you see the same thing as a gift. What was before bothering you, troubling you, worrying you, now you say, you know, it's like a gift for me. I learned so much. If this situation had not come in my life, I wouldn't have grown so much. Now, some gifts come to you very beautifully wrapped. Maybe some lovely gold paper, red ribbon. You open the gift and inside, maybe not so useful. Other gifts come to you badly wrapped, tatty, unattractive. But hold on just a moment. Open the gift, and inside there may be something of real value for you. And so this is an indication, yes, as you raise your perspective, your relationship with situations and events is changing. The meaning you're giving to situations is changing, and therefore your emotional state is changing too. And when one studies these things regularly, practices them, lives with them, it becomes a habit. It becomes a habit to see things from that higher perspective rather than as a problem and something to fight against, something which has come to make my life miserable. So just in essence, to finish off, take better care of your mind by building silence moments, meditations into your day-to-day life. And two, learn to see things from another angle. Keep refreshing your mind with these thoughts to raise your perspective and giving higher meaning to the events around you. So I thank you for your attention. We've gone a little bit over time. I'm hoping you can carry something away from our session and apply in your practical lives. Thank you.
Angel? Yes. Thank you so much, Brother Yogesh, for conducting this insightful session for all of us. Your points were really well said and definitely very much useful for all of us youths to use and to go through challenging days or just our daily life by using the methods you mentioned, such as the result formula, the use of traffic control, the benefits and the use of meditation, etc. There's so many methods and suggestions you mentioned. But once again, a big thank you to you, Yogesh Bhai, and thank you to Bindu Ben for planning this session for us, and to Sister Kinneri for hosting this Zoom session, and to everybody who joined us today. And a small announcement, there will also be another webinar for youth and professionals tomorrow and on Sunday called Meditation Laboratory. And rather than long meditation sessions, our kind facilitator will be doing a lot of question and answers with all of us and a few short meditation exercises to teach us about things also related to what Brother Yogesh had mentioned, visualizations, energy, etc. Further details and links and flyers will be sent to everyone shortly. And so please grasp this chance and attend tomorrow's wonderful webinar.
Any
I
question?
will now pass the
Question?
time to Binduban if she has anything to add on, or if anyone has some questions to ask, maybe. Thank you.
कोई question है?
You can type your questions in the chat box, or you can raise your hand to ask a question, and we will unmute you. There's been lots of feedback coming. Thanks messages for Yogesh Bhai, Bindu Ben. It's a good opportunity to ask question to our brother Yogesh. Please raise your hand, or you can put your question in the chat box.
Yeah, if there's no questions, we can even
Yeah.
end with a moment of silence together.
Okay.
Question आया है किन्नरी
How to stop overthinking, unnecessary thinking? How to stop that?
Well, I'm hoping the last hour was really an answer to that. But maybe I add one more thing: is make the mind busy in something productive, positive, meaningful, constructive, and in addition to like your morning meditation, you could even add, reading some spiritual wisdom first thing in the morning, something that inspires you. Excuse me. Something about values, virtues, and then keep your mind busy through the day, thinking about that. If the mind is given something constructive and positive to focus upon, then it won't drift into thinking wastefully. And usually when there isn't any focus for the day, then the drifting happens and the overthinking happens. Then it's a question of practice, regularity in practice. And that's why for us, as you may know, in our BK organization, we have daily classes, daily meditations, daily get-togethers, because that sort of environment is necessary to get out of overthinking habits. So morning meditation and spiritual study These two things help us to overcome the overthinking tendencies.
Nice.
Sister, you
Okay.
have any question?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
Saying hello. All right, so let's do this. Let's have a little silent meditation to finish off. Would that be okay?
Okay.
Unless Bindu Didi wants to say something.
Binduban, you want to say something?
No. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so if everybody again have your back straight, your feet flat on the floor if you can, and you can see this image in front of you, and this image of the star or the point of light, it's the symbol of the soul energy. And so many of you will be familiar with this idea that I bring my thoughts in towards myself. And I start with the question, who am I? I know in daily life I play many different roles at work, at home, at school. But there is more to me than my roles. I wear different masks in the different situations I find myself in. But I am more than these masks. I carry different labels of my nationality, my culture, my religion, my race, my gender. But there is more to me than simply these. When I look in the mirror, I see the reflection of my face, my body. And I know there is more to me than this. And so I bring my attention to the center of my forehead, and I picture myself as a star of peaceful light in the center of the forehead. Just visualize this wonderful star of peaceful energy in the center of the forehead. The star of peace in my forehead. This is me. This is I, the eternal soul. I, the soul. I am light. eternal. I am spiritual energy. I am peace. I use this body to express myself, but I am not this physical body. I am the spiritual being. I am eternal. I am peace. Just be with this feeling for a few moments. Om Shanti. Thank you.